6-love. Not a scoreline. A verdict. On Wimbledon's Court 3, Alex Eala didn't just beat Maya Joint. She denied her a single game, in the one set that decided everything. Now rewind exactly 360-some days. Same rivalry. Different court. The result flipped the other way, because that exact same Maya Joint once beat Alex Eala in the final of the Eastbourne Open, in a deciding set tiebreak, and walked off with a trophy that should have been Eala's. Sit with that for a second. The player who once denied Eala a title just got denied a single game in return. And here's the part nobody's talking about. Joint didn't walk into this match cold. One round earlier, she knocked out 7-time champion Serena Williams, the single biggest win of her career. So how does a player fresh off beating a legend lose 6-0 in a deciding set to the same rival who broke her heart a year ago? What actually happened between Eastbourne and this Thursday night in London? One more detail before we go back. Eala lost the first set. She was down. And she still finished it 3-6, 6-2, 6-0. Let's rewind to where this rivalry actually started. Because Alex Eala didn't get here by accident. She left the Philippines as a teenager. Rafael Nadal Academy, Spain. New language. New coach. New idea of what good enough even means. Years of losing on purpose, just to learn how to win. By this Wimbledon, she'd earned something no Filipino ever had. A seed. 29. Not given. Earned. Tournament by tournament, until the sport itself had to admit she belonged. Her second Wimbledon. She already knew this grass. She'd already won once this fortnight. Renata Zarazua, 6-1, 6-2, in the first round, before Joint's name ever showed up on her side of the draw. A Filipina, seeded for the first time at a Grand Slam, already through one round, an entire country watching. That's the version of Eala who walked out to face Joint. And this wasn't just her third Grand Slam win sitting in isolation. It was a pattern. Her first had come at the US Open the year before, against Clara Tauson. Her second, one day earlier, right here at Wimbledon, against Zarazua. This made 3. 3 Grand Slam main draw wins, 2 tournaments, 2 continents, inside less than a year. That's not a fluke run. That's a career-building momentum in real time. But to understand why the Joint match mattered so much more than the other two, you have to go back further. You have to go back to Eastbourne. 2025, the Lexus Eastbourne Open. The final. Eala and Joint. Grass courts. Everything on the line. Joint won it. A deciding set tiebreak, the cruelest way possible to lose a final. Not blown away. Not outclassed. Just edged, point by agonizing point, until the scoreboard said someone else's name. Listen to how Eala herself described that loss, months later. In her own words, "We had an insane match here at Eastbourne, and I lost, and it hit me quite hard. I cried a lot, and I don't think I was able to watch those highlights for a couple of months." Read that again. A couple of months. She couldn't even watch the footage of her own final. Not because she didn't care. Because she cared too much. You'd assume a loss like that fades with time. It didn't. It sat with her, quietly, through every tournament that followed. And then she said something else, almost in passing, that tells you everything about who she'd become by the time Wimbledon arrived. "I think I improved a lot in this past year, and I'm happy that I'm able to look back at that loss, and I'm able to smile." Extra motivation to win for sure. That's not closure. Closure is when a loss stops mattering. This was something else. This was a debt she was still carrying, quietly, into Wimbledon. If you were watching last year when Eastbourne slipped away from her, tell us below. Did you think she'd get her revenge on the stage? She got the chance faster than anyone expected. Thursday night, Manila time. Court 3, All England Club. The draw put Joint right back in front of her. And Joint did not look like a player who'd lost her nerve. She'd just beaten Serena Williams in the round before, a 7-time Wimbledon champion. 44 years old and still dangerous enough to make headlines around the world just for stepping on center court. The 20-year-old Australian carried that momentum straight onto Court 3. She came out firing. Deep forehand returns that pushed Eala into mistakes almost immediately. Joint raced to a 3-0 lead before Eala had even found her footing. Eala clawed back within a point, 3-4. And Joint answered anyway, breaking again, holding again, closing the door. Eala admitted it herself afterward. "Maya came out on fire. She came out ready, and I was expecting a really good match." The first set slipped away, 6-3, to Joint. Down a set. Against the one player who already took something enormous from you once. The same surface. The same kind of pressure. The same name across the net. What do you actually do next if you're Eala in that chair? She used it. Second set. Eala doubled down on baseline power, added more placement, made herself unpredictable. She broke serve in the third game to grab a 2-1 lead. Then never looked back, ripping off a 4-1 run to level the match at 1 set apiece. 6-2. 1 set apiece. And suddenly the match was no longer about survival. It was about who wanted the third set more. What happened in the next 20 minutes is why Filipino fans still talk about Court 3. Third set. This is where the story turns. Joint was visibly gassed walking to her chair after the second set. Eala wasn't. But it still wasn't a clean sweep. 6 deuces. 2 games. 20 extra minutes of tennis nobody in that crowd wanted to end. Eala had to survive all 6 across the first and third games, just to build a 3-0 lead. Extended, physical, exhausting rallies that felt like they'd never stop. Joint kept fighting, kept pushing, kept forcing Eala to earn every single point. And once Eala had that lead, she never let it slip again. Game after game, Joint's errors piled up. 41 unforced errors by the end of the match, on top of 37 winners that came in bursts, but couldn't hold the match together for her. Even in the very last game, Joint fought her way to a 40-30 lead. One more push, one more chance to stay alive. It didn't matter. Eala closed it out. 6-0. A complete bagel, in the set that mattered most, against the one player Eala had every reason to fear. 6-0. Not a nervy win. Not a scramble across the finish line. A statement. And Court 3 knew it. Every error from Joint, every point Eala won. The Filipino crowd got louder and louder, until a second-round match started sounding like a coronation. This is the moment Eala herself called digging deep. In her words, I really had to dig deep, especially after that first set. She also made a point, afterward, of crediting her opponent, noting that Joint was coming off an incredible win over Serena Williams and had handled that pressure well. Respect, even in victory. Even after everything Eastbourne cost her a year earlier. Here's what this win actually means beyond the scoreline. Alex Eala became the first Filipino ever to reach the third round of a Grand Slam. The first Filipino to win a singles main draw match at Wimbledon, period. Not the best Filipino result in years. The first one, ever, in the modern era of this sport. No one from her country had stood in this exact spot before her. Every young player in the Philippines picking up a racket today now has proof that this door isn't locked shut. Eala kicked it open, on grass, against the very player who once beat her when it mattered most. And she wasn't done saying thank you. After the win, she turned to the crowd and said, in Tagalog, maraming salamat pa. Thank you, very much. She went further, thanking Joint's fans too, calling the atmosphere electric and respectful, everything she could have hoped for. That's not just an athlete winning a tennis match. That's a nation's pride, standing on Court 3, bowing to the people who came to watch her make history. A young player who left home to train at an academy across the world, who spent years grinding through anonymous matches on distant courts, who carried a country's hopes onto a surface where nobody who looked like her had ever gone this far. And now, standing there after the biggest win of her career, the first thing she does is turn around and say thank you, in her own language, to the people who traveled to be there for her. That's the kind of moment that doesn't just live in a highlight reel. That's the kind of moment a whole community replays for years. So let's go back to where we started. 0 games. That's what Maya Joint walked away with in the final set. 360 some days earlier, Joint walked away from Eastbourne with the trophy Eala thought was hers. The debt got paid. Not quietly. Not narrowly. 6-0, in front of a crowd that had waited a year to see it happen. But this story isn't finished. And Eala doesn't even get a full day to celebrate it. The very next morning, Manila time, she's back on court, this time in doubles, pairing with Nikola Bartunkova against the formidable duo of Yelena Ostapenko and Sofia Kenin. No rest, no pause, straight back into competition while the ink on this win is still drying. And 2 days after that comes the real test. Eastbourne is closed. Now it's the defending champion. World number 3. A player who just won her own match 6-1, 6-3 without breaking a sweat. No debt this time. Just a bigger mountain. We'll be here when she climbs it. Subscribe, so you don't find out from someone else's headline.